Movies can at times seem so flawless and perfect, but things don't always go according to plan. Nor do we always see and hear what happens when the cameras aren't rolling. Method actors transform their bodies in sake of portraying the character and sometimes go too far. Props fail, and sickness can almost lead to death. Be sure to like and hit the red subscribe button below. If you haven't already, join our notification squad to watch more videos just like this in our playlist.
Okay.
Can you guess which movie this is based off of these emojis? Stay tuned to find out shortly after the video. Ashton Kutcher, Jobs. Most remember Ashton Kutcher as the idiotic, good-looking guy from That 70s Show or as the co-creator of the MTV hidden camera show, Punk'd. When he was chosen to portray the late Apple CEO, Steve Jobs, Ashton went all in and really got into character.
If I do say so myself, it's insanely cool.
Now, Kutcher is not considered a method actor. Some would go as far as saying that he isn't even an actor at all. He gave it a shot and went on a fruitarian diet just like the real Steve Jobs. Getting that much into character didn't really work out so well for Kutcher. He was hospitalized just before filming started for out-of-whack pancreas levels. Pretty scary considering Jobs died in 2011 after a long battle with pancreatic cancer. Ashton is lucky his attempt at method acting didn't cause him any serious internal damage. As well as a change in diet, Kutcher also lost 18 pounds and personified Jobs in other ways such as walking like him, studying entrepreneurs he admired, listened to music he liked, and even walked around barefoot or wore Birkenstocks. Steve was an interesting man, and Kutcher really wanted to delve deep into who the man was while not in the public eye. Christian Bale, The Machinist. Released in 2004, The Machinist starred Christian Bale, who took on the role of, you guessed it, a machinist by the name of Trevor Resnick. Trevor suffered from insomnia for over a year and began to doubt his own sanity after a workplace incident. It was a psychological thriller in which Bale gave a stellar performance and was well received by critics. Bale is well known for being a method actor and getting very into his characters. To play the role, Bale dropped down to 121 pounds, losing more than 60 pounds to get there. He looks so frail you can hardly even recognize him, much different than he has looked in any of his other films. It is hard to imagine he was able to endure what he did, especially with his bigger frame. Being basically nothing but skin and bones, it looked as though he could collapse at any moment on screen. It is quite the transformation going from that to becoming the caped crusader who is roughly 100 pounds heavier. He loves what he does and wouldn't let something like transforming his body get in the way. He is lucky that he was easily able to put back on the weight and stayed alive.
Defeat my enemy, I extinguish his life, and consume him as I consume these flames.
Daniel Day-Lewis, Gangs of New York. Another notorious method actor is none other than Daniel Day-Lewis. To some, it may have seemed like Day-Lewis appeared out of nowhere, starring in My Left Foot, released in 1989, but he'd actually been in film since 1971. He always carefully chooses the characters he portrays and then executes them very well.
I drink your milkshake. I drink it up!
Most of the time, he stays in character even when the cameras aren't rolling, which is not an easy thing to do. He took things a little too seriously in 2002, which almost cost him his life. In his role of Bill the Butcher Cutting, an infamous gang leader in Martin Scorsese's Gangs of New York, Day-Lewis would only dress in clothes that encapsulated what others would wear in 1863. Unfortunately, since clothes were not made very well back then, this led him to catching pneumonia. He was so into the time period and his character, he tried to fight through it considering there wasn't a treatment back then. When he was told he would die if he didn't get medical treatment, he finally caved in. Thankfully, he listened to reason and got help. Otherwise, we would be missing one of the greatest actors to ever grace the silver screen.
You got me. Freeze! Hands in the air!
Oh my. Do one of you guys mind giving us a hand with our bags?
Isla Fisher, Now You See Me. Now You See Me, released in 2013, is about an FBI agent and Interpol detective who tracks a team of illusionists. The illusionists heist banks during their performances, then reward their audiences with the money. Each character has their own set of tricks up their sleeves, and they all get a chance in the spotlight. There is one scene where Isla Fisher has to make a daring escape being chained in a water tank before piranhas are dropped on her head. It is something like you may see from Harry Houdini, minus the flesh-eating fish. The actress is in no way a magician, and things went south quickly as she couldn't escape from her chain. The chain became stuck and Fisher had to swim to the bottom of the tank. While everyone thought she was doing such a great job of acting, they didn't know she was actually drowning. Luckily, the tank came equipped with a safety release switch, which she flipped. She then received help from a nearby stuntman and was able to get out. Fisher is not cast in the second movie, and it is a wonder if it is because of this one sequence gone wrong. Not a bad choice to back out if that's the case, right?
What's your name, dude?
Eastwood.
Clint Eastwood.
Michael J. Fox, Back to the Future Part 3. We're taking a trip back to the Old West for this one. Everyone loves the on-screen chemistry between the mad scientist Doc Brown and his young friend Marty McFly in the Back to the Future trilogy. Remember in Back to the Future Part 3 where Marty's being hung by Buford Mad Dog Tannen from the clock tower? It looked pretty real, don't you think? Well, great Scott, it actually was, believe it or not. It's the only way to convincingly look like you're dying while being hung, of course. Luckily, Doc came to the rescue with his specially designed rifle.
They'll shoot the fleas off a dog's back at 500 yards, Tannen!
Fox had practiced the scene a few times while standing on a box, but it wasn't working out quite right, so he did one take without it. His timing was a little off with how long it would take to finish the scene, and he ended up passing out for 30 seconds, which is about how long it took for anyone to notice he was unconscious. Luckily for Fox, it wasn't any longer than that, or that would have been one of the worst on-set tragedies of all time. Everyone would have wished the DeLorean really was able to time travel to fix that mistake.
I must break you.
Sylvester Stallone, Rocky IV. Seeing Sylvester Stallone run up the stairs of the entrance to Philadelphia Museum of Art in Rocky is one of the great scenes in cinema history. Whenever you hear Eye of the Tiger, you probably can't help but think of the Italian stallion. Stallone's career almost came to an abrupt halt, though, during the making of Rocky IV. Most can agree that the fight scenes in Rocky IV were pretty stellar. One reason is that Stallone and Lundgren were actually punching each other because the fake punching just wasn't cutting it for Stallone. He decided it wasn't realistic enough and they needed to start hitting each other for real. It may have been a good idea to make the movie as realistic as possible, but it nearly put Stallone 6 feet under. He told Lundgren to hit him as hard as he could for the final punch that knocks him down. Lundgren followed orders and did just that. He hit Stallone so hard his heart swelled and he had to spend 8 days in intensive care recovering from the monstrous hit he took. Stallone later admitted that he shouldn't have asked Dolph to hit him so hard. We would have to agree. What do you think? Tom Cruise, The Edge of Tomorrow. Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt starred in Edge of Tomorrow, released in 2014. They are both soldiers fighting an alien race that has hit Earth in a relentless assault. Cruise plays an officer who has never seen a day in combat, but then gets his chance. When he is dropped into what turns out to be a suicide mission, he is thrown into a time loop, forcing him to live out the same fight over and over again. You may be aware that Cruise likes to do most of his own stunts, as many as he can. When he almost died, it actually wouldn't have been his fault, but his co-stars. She was driving a car in a scene with Tom in the passenger seat and things got a little out of control. Emily was approaching a right-hand turn and Tom was muttering under his breath to brake over and over again. She did not brake hard enough and she drove them into a tree. She was almost responsible for Tom Cruise's death. You may have remembered the slogan for the movie, Live, Die, Repeat. Well, Tom Cruise actually almost did die during the making of the film, but he wouldn't have been able to repeat that day.
Holy you wouldn't believe what this guy was capable to do. Unbelievable.
Jason Statham, Expendables 3. Even though he had a real breakthrough being cast in 2 of Guy Ritchie's movies, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, as well as Snatch, Jason Statham is probably most notorious for his work in the Transporter series. He is one awesome action hero who loves to do his own stunts. He did nearly all of his own in the original Transporter, released in 2002, including car chase sequences, scuba diving sequences, and fight scenes. Casting Jason Statham as part of the Expendables movie should have come as no surprise. The movies feature a slew of action stars, and he was in them from the beginning. During the making of Expendables 3, doing his own stunts almost cost him his life. The brakes on the truck he was driving for the film ended up failing. It forced him to jump out of it as the truck plummeted into the sea. If he didn't ditch the rig, he would have gone down with it 60 feet below the surface. If you didn't know, Statham has done quite a lot with his life before settling on becoming an actor. He was a diver for the British National Diving Team, a black market salesman, and a fashion model. Halle Berry, Die Another Day. James Bond is daring, smart, suave, sophisticated, and has lots of talents. Pierce Brosnan and Halle Berry co-starred in the Bond flick Die Another Day, released in 2002. You'd think that if anyone was to come close to death in one of those action-heavy films, it would happen in some crazy car chase or explosion. However, it was during an intimate moment that almost took Halle Berry's life. While shooting one of the infamous romantic scenes between Bond and his love interest, Jinx, played by Berry, she cut a piece of fig and placed it in her mouth. She then shared the fruit with him while they were kissing. Berry, caught up in the scene trying to seduce Pierce, suddenly began to choke. The lighting was so dark that no one else could tell what was happening. Fortunately, Brosnan could sense something was the matter and performed the Heimlich maneuver, potentially saving Halle Berry's life. At first, he was a little hesitant, seeing as how they were both naked for the scene and was worried about putting his arms around her. Luckily, he cast his fear aside and did it anyways. How do you think you'd feel if you were put in that situation? Emilia Clarke, breakfast at Tiffany's. Sudden health issues can be a massive scare, especially if they are as serious as what Emilia Clarke went through 4 years ago. Not many people know this, but the Game of Thrones star Emilia Clarke, who plays Daenerys Targaryen, was diagnosed with a brain aneurysm in the spring of 2013. Being only 26 years old, that is a scary thing to fathom. She was just finishing up a Broadway stint of Breakfast at Tiffany's when she was admitted to the hospital. Clarke was treated at the New York Presbyterian Weill Cornell Center in Manhattan. She seems to have recovered well, and we haven't seen a drop in performance from her on Game of Thrones. No one really knows what the cause of the aneurysm was, but we're glad that she is doing all right now. Game of Thrones will continue airing on July 16th, and once again, we should be in for a real treat. The beloved Mother of Dragons should be a crucial part of the storyline in this next season, and luckily, it will be Emilia Clarke who plays her. Did you have any idea these actors were so lucky to be alive after a role? Are there some that you thought of that we missed?
I know your works.
The answer to the movie emoji is… well, did you guess it correctly? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel and watch other great videos from our playlist.